Let's go to this next one, and let's look at this one. The first indicator that I got something weird going on is going to be the person who made the amendment. And so Shays made the amendment, and Shays is the sponsor of the bill, so that tells us something else is going on here. Let's go back. And this is roll call number 21. Amendment in nature substitute prohibits office holders and candidates from soliciting soft money in connection with federal elections and prevents, etc. Soft money on that. An amendment in the nature substitute number printed in congressional record. Substitute directs that the soft money ban, except that hard money, take effect on a different date. So November 6, 2012. Changes in hard money would take effect January 1, 2003. What this was is this is what's known as a friendly amendment. You know that first of all because the sponsor of the overall legislation is the one making the amendment, but it's just kind of tinkering with the positions in the bill. And so let's look at the roll call number. Shays made the original amendment, and so Shays votes for it, and so does Meehan. Okay. All right, so what that tells me is when we go to our other one, this is going to be soft money, so it's going to be CR2. It's going to be 0 actually because it's forestalling the date, right? So we're putting off something. It's going to relax current restrictions. But the purpose of it was they were cutting a deal to maintain support. So it's 0, but it's yay, and it's a friendly amendment. And here I support is eventually support for the final passage, for the final bill. And we don't need to invert it, so leave that blank, and we'll insert the number of I votes to 40 here. Okay. So friendly votes are a little bit different. There's a situation where the sponsor of the bill is negotiating at the current kind of bargaining place, and they may put in a couple of loopholes or exceptions to keep people in the game and keep people from voting for other unfriendly amendments. And so that's kind of what Chris Shays did here. He cut a deal with somebody to extend the action dates for when these restrictions would be in place. And while that is relaxing the actual support for campaign finance, the idea that it's done by the sponsors and friendly means that it was one of these kind of votes to support the final passage of the bill. That's kind of how we do it. Let's look at one more. This is going to be one that's quite similar to the first one. I'll show you how that works again. Let's go here. We'll go back and we'll look at the fourth one. This is roll call number 22. This one, amendment sought to provide nothing in the bill may be construed to abridge the freedoms found in the First Amendment to the Constitution, specifically the freedom of speech or press, the right of peace to peaceably assemble, etc. Amendment number 32 printed in the right to peaceably assemble, etc. Okay, so I'll tell you what's going on here. This is a way to really kill the bill, and what you're doing is you're basically inserting the First Amendment into this process, and the First Amendment puts language in there that the courts can come through later and just gut it. And so let's go back and look at our table of rules. Now this is First Amendment, and this is something communications, right? So policy proposals that either restrict or limit candidate communications with potential voters. This is going to relax the restrictions essentially, because you're inputting this First Amendment thing, which is all about the liberty of speech. And so if you included that rider in there, it's going to relax the ability to restrict candidate communications, because courts are probably going to gut a bunch of them later on. And by referencing the First Amendment, you're noting that you are not trying to increase restrictions on candidate communications. You're essentially trying to free them up, make sure the candidates can talk about these kind of things. So this is going to be a 0. Right. Now, so let's go do this one. And so it's going to be CR4, or actually CR3. going to be a 0, and it's going to be a, let's look and see what, I'm sure that Shays and Meehan didn't support this thing. But let's go and look real quick. Let's look at roll call number 2. And a lot of people supported it, but if you get down to Shays and Meehan down here, they voted against it. And Meehan voted against it as well. Okay. So if we go to our bill, we will show that the sponsors voted nay. So it's going to be an unfriendly amendment. And that means an aye vote would be 0. And we need to invert it. And that means 237 needs to be put in place there. Okay? So that's kind of a way to show you. In this one, they were, in the first one, what they were doing is they were putting bans on soft money, but they were doing it at such a level that it was going to erode support in the current coalition. That's what's known as a poison pill strategy. In the second one, they were relaxing the rates of contributions that were eligible. So while that serves against the purpose of the bill, and it was sponsored by people who were unfriendly to it, that means that support for that one was also coded 0. The last one, the third one, was what's known as a friendly amendment. That's when the sponsor or somebody friendly to the legislation sponsors kind of a quid pro quo or a negotiation in order to keep people happy. And so what they did here is Shays relaxed some standards in the bill to maintain support, and so it was a friendly amendment. The last one involved not soft money or campaign contributions. It was actually on communications, but they were going to insert some language on the First Amendment that would have made it really hard to restrict candidate communications whenever this stuff got reviewed by the courts. So that was just a straightforward unfriendly amendment, and the sponsors voted against it. So that means it was it should be a 0 code, and it needs to be inverted. Okay, good. That's what we need to do for all of these. As you go through, you'll see that we had poison pills, unfriendly, one friendly, a series of unfriendly ones related to campaign communications. I had a couple poison pills at the end, and then this final passage. I didn't code anything in the strategy. I only coded the strategies for the amendments here because that's where you have to kind of get turned on your head a little bit looking at this stuff. But the important part is look at what the original code was, look at what the sponsors do, and then figure out what kind of strategy was at play. And then on the basis of that strategy, code the I code, right? So 1 would be in favor of the eventual legislation, 0 would be against it. And notice here that if you look at it, only one of those was a friendly amendment. The rest of them were stuff that either was trying to throw poison pills in, or it was relaxing the negotiated bargain as it currently standed. And so what we'll do later is we're going to keep this third vote and the final passage vote all in the same direction as they are, but we're going to have to invert all these other votes to reflect support for the bill. Okay. Good. That's a little bit of an example of how to do these coding. It really is difficult to do, and it's confusing. So work through, but remember, the sponsor is always your friend here, right? You can kind of tell what's going on by what the sponsors do with respect to the vote on the amendment or the procedure.